The next phase of dating is the one that I like to call, which is the actual interaction. Like, what do we do when we're hanging out? How do we actually interact with people? The first thing is to realize that both of you are as awkward as each other. A mistake that many people make is like, I'm the awkward one, right? If there's an awkward silence, it's my fault. I have to fix it. You gotta remember the other person thinks the same thing as well. They also think this is awkward, and they also think it's their fault. If, by the way, at any point they're making you think it's your fault, don't date that person. That's bad. Later on in a relationship, that turns into everything is your fault. Most of the time, when there is an awkward silence, it's for both people. That means you are just as in charge of fixing it as they are, so you don't have to fix it. You can absolutely just sit in it. I found the best thing to do in any situation where I was awkward, weird, or strange was to explain the fact that I'm being awkward, weird, and strange. For example, I took somebody on a date to a coffee shop. We're in the coffee shop, and I don't drink coffee, so I thought I would get an experimental juice, because this place was a coffee shop and juice bar. It was actually a Persian coffee shop. And so there was a Persian woman. This was the place that she chose as the coffee shop. And I decided to order this exotic juice drink. What I didn't know was that it had kiwi and ginger in it. Now, that doesn't really matter to most people, except I am really, really susceptible to having allergic reactions to the skin of a kiwi fruit. Just the skin. The kiwi itself is absolutely fine, but the skin will ruin me. And apparently, when they made this juice, there was a little bit of skin in there. And I know because I started having a coughing fit in the middle of the date. And so there I am on a date with an incredibly beautiful Persian girl, coughing my lungs up. Every other word. It was horrible. It was one of the most awkward situations. And yet, not only did I successfully get through the date, we ended up dating afterwards. Why? Because I said to her, I think I'm really allergic to kiwi skin, and I think they put it in here. And we were both laughing at the fact that I couldn't breathe. Now, sometimes that's a bad sign, but in this situation, it was good because they were laughing with me versus at me. But again, by owning the fact it was awkward, it didn't ruin the situation. In fact, I found owning any bad situation will almost always fix it. For example, an awkward silence, I will typically say to somebody, wow, I think I've completely run out of anything to say. It's pretty awkward. And they will typically respond, me too, almost every time, me too. And I'm like, yeah, it gets weird sometimes. I'm like, okay, reset. What's your favorite thing to do? And now we shift into a new line of conversation. Or if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go and why? If you ever run out of conversation, the word why is probably the most powerful. If I say to somebody, do you like donuts? The answer is yes or no, and that's the end of the conversation. If I'm like, do you like donuts and why? I'm going to have a much better conversation. So just remember that why is your most powerful word. If you need to pad out a conversation, why? Also, the best conversations are ones where you both care about the subject. There's this weird phrase, opposites attract. It is not true. Opposites are not the thing that attract. It is similarities that attract. The more you have in common with somebody, the better the interaction is going to be. And so I strongly recommend that anybody in any situation where they're in a dating scenario with somebody focuses on finding things you have in common. So I know that I like traveling, I like good food, I'm a nerd and I like nerdy video games, board games, and things like that. I also love business, marketing, and dating. And these are about my favorite subjects. Anything outside of that, outside of talking about my kids and my family, is probably not conversations I'm going to want to have. So when I meet somebody, the first thing I do in conversation is pick those as my core subjects. I'm going to shift the conversation to my topics as fast as possible. Not because I'm trying to entertain them, but I'm trying to find out if we both agree on these subjects. If we both believe that these subjects are good subjects, we're going to have a great time. There's a few other subjects that I can talk about that I enjoy. For example, martial arts. For example, acting, movie making, photography. I call these my subsidiary subjects. They're subjects that I can definitely enjoy having a conversation about, although they're rarely my favorite conversation. But if I meet somebody that likes these subjects, it's a good filler category, and it can definitely keep the conversation going. Then there are subjects that I absolutely hate talking about. And these subjects are things that I'm going to want to stay away from. For example, I don't really like petty drama. Not really something that I like. And anybody that's interested in that, that doesn't really do it for me. I'm also not really into service industry type conversations. Just because I have nothing to add. I've never worked in a service industry. That doesn't mean I can't date people in the service industry, but it just means that I know that's a subject that they may not want to talk about and I may not want to talk about. Likewise, I've got subjects in my life that I know that other people don't really like talking about. For example, I really like deep persuasion and the way that human beings interact. And that's not always a pleasant conversation with people, because I'll happily have conversations about propaganda in the 1940s. Not necessarily the best first date conversation to have with somebody, so I tend to withdraw those subjects as well. But I find if I meet somebody and we can talk about something that we both enjoy, then the conversation is going to go well. Movies, a good TV show, these kind of things will drive that conversation forward, and they'll make it good. And then once we get hanging out and do more dates, then we'll see how much more compatibility we have. I don't need 100% compatibility with somebody. I need about 80%. It's absolutely fine for there to be some subjects I don't want to deal with, and likewise, for me to have subjects that they don't want to deal with. And as someone who shows up in a relationship, I'll probably listen to them anyway. I've dated somebody who's in the service industry, working as a waitress. They came home at the end of every day, and they wanted to talk about all the gossip, all the drama, and all the issues at work. I sat and listened to them. They're not my favorite conversations, but I realized and recognized that that's how they needed me to show up for them. I sat and listened to them through a meal. At the end of the meal, I would say to them, hey, let it go. End the day. For you, not for me. And they would say, thank you. Thanks for listening, and you're right, I need to end it. And then we'd put on our favorite TV show, and then we'd sit, watch the TV show, and we'd talk about superheroes or something completely different. When I'm in a relationship, I'm looking for 80% perfection. The worst thing that people do in a relationship is they'll get into one where 80% is good, 20% is not necessarily what they want, and they fixate on that, and they start looking for that 20% elsewhere. Then they leave their partner to get the 20% they're missing, but then have 80% completely gone. One of the key things you can do in a relationship is just accept you're not supposed to be perfect for each other. You're just supposed to be good. Those little bits that don't match, you can get around those. But if largely you enjoy spending all your time together, if largely they're not judging you and they're helping you grow and you're helping them grow, everything's good. You can stop looking and you can start enjoying. You can start focusing on the relationship. And once again, it sounds like we're talking about the end, but we're really talking about the beginning. Because what I'm doing at the beginning is not looking for 100% perfection. One of the dangers of believing you found 100% perfection is that you might actually be overcompensating for that relationship. You might be putting them up on a pedestal and trying to imagine they're perfect when they're not. This is dangerous because you can end up dating somebody that doesn't exist. I have a student right now going through this situation. They've actually broken up with their partner, and they believe their partner is perfect. And they'll say to me, she was perfect. She had everything. And I would have to remind them all the things she did wrong. Like the time that she insulted them in front of her family. Like the time that she chose hanging out with her family at a dinner and didn't invite him. Like the time that she screamed in his face or told him that he was pathetic. None of these things are perfect, and yet he believes she's perfect and he did things wrong. And until he can accept that the version of her that he has in his head is not the real her, he can't move forward and meet anybody else. Because he's got this idealistic, fake human being that he believes is great. And if you're on a date with somebody and you've convinced yourself that that person's perfect and that you have to have them, you're in a bad position because you're not seeing them for as they truly are. I've never met anybody that's better than 80% of what I want. 80% is about right. There's going to be 20% that's off, and that's okay. Just accept that. One of my favorite things to say to people I got from Bridget Jones' Diary. And again, I think Bridget Jones' Diary is another great movie to understand about relationships. And it's when Darcy says to Bridget, I like you just as you are. And he lists all the things that are wrong with her. And he goes, and despite that, I still like you. That right there is the thing that I'm looking for. Not for someone to say it to me, but for me to say it to them. I want to look at somebody, see their flaws, see them as they truly are, and decide that I'm okay with those flaws. Decide that none of those flaws are bad enough that I don't want to be with that person. That means that I've been with somebody who likes drinking. I like drinking occasionally, but not very much. For me, going out just for the cause of having a drink isn't fun. I like to go out for a purpose, to see a friend or to network with people. I don't just like to go out to drink. And yet, I absolutely am dating somebody who likes to go for a drink. And I will go for a drink because that's what they want to do. In that situation, I view it as I'm going for them. But what I'm doing is going out, and my event is to spend time with that person. And if that person likes drinking, that's okay. That's not my ideal. That doesn't make them perfect, but it sits in the 20% that's acceptable. And I can appreciate that they like doing it. I like watching them try different drinks and talk about how great they are and tasting everything. Their eyes roll back when they're great. And to me, I'm like, it's just alcohol. It tastes the same. It doesn't matter. They like it, and I can appreciate they like it. Likewise, that person will come with me to a nerd convention. And I know they're walking around looking at me going, wow, look, superheroes. And they're like, yay. But they're doing it for me, and that's also the point. So when I'm on dates with people and I'm having conversation, I'm throwing topics out there and I'm looking for them to be okay with about 80% of the conversation. And if there's 20% they don't like, that doesn't mean it's off. It just means I shuffle those ones to one side and keep going. So in this initial conversation, all I'm looking to do is to have fun. Will they laugh? Are they enjoying being in this interaction? When I get into teaching people about dating, we talk about brain chemicals and how to trigger them. Oxytocin is one of the main triggers in attraction. And we talk about how you can use that to trigger attraction with somebody. But we don't need to get into that today. Save that for when you want to get more into the details. But the summary is if you're making somebody laugh, you're probably generating oxytocin and you're starting to form a bond. So now we've gone from meeting lots of people to having lots of dates and getting to know them. Each of these dates can be 10 minutes long over a coffee, whether it's through a friend of a friend or at a networking event, and I'm like, hey, let's go grab a coffee sometime. Or whether it's for an online dating app. Either way, I should be having a lot of different meetings. I like people when they're practicing dating or going out on lots of dates, you should be having 2 dates a week. 2 different people every single week consistently. A 10-minute coffee twice a week is going to move you to a place where you meet somebody great in a rapid amount of time. Within about a month, you should have met somebody that you actually really like and you're open to seeing again.